Welcome to the Lock Shop with Nielsen and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to a Wednesday edition of The Lock Shop. Dustin Nielsen and Hustler with you as we get you set for another week in the Canadian Football League, the Scottish Open. We're going to try to make it 3 Lock Shops in a row with a golf winner. We're going to bet the NHL draft. We got the NBA offseason. One final visit from our friend Chris Abbott as he leaves Coolbet, who is the presenting sponsor of The Lock Shop. If you're wagering with us, you're doing it at coolbet.com. If you're not yet signed up for an account, make sure you do so using the code Lock Shop. Haas, what's up, my man?
Well, what's up is obviously we've got the NHL draft tomorrow, and we're paying close attention to what's happening with the teams that we cover most closely and everything around the league. But I'll be honest with you, dude, I'm just counting down the hours until the Bombers and Lions play on Saturday night. I know you are fortunate enough to be calling that game.
Oh,
we will
baby.
be watching here from the middle of the country, and I'll tell you what, we had a pretty wild game. A little Monday night football on the 4th of July for Bombers Argos. What a bizarre game. I'm looking forward to talking about that with Rod Smith actually coming up on Winnipeg Sports Talk today. But CFL never fails to entertain. We got 3 games this week. And as you mentioned, the Scottish Open, 14 of the top 15 in the world overseas, getting ready for the Open Championship the following week. So lots of interesting things to get to. Oh, and where will KD go? You know Coolbet's got lines for that.
You can bet NBA offseason, which is awesome. So we'll certainly get into that as we work our way through. Huss has a couple of NBA offseason picks. I'm sitting back and just enjoying it until Kyrie ends up on the Lakers. So I'm going to wait and see. And I know you're going against that, so we'll discuss that when we get there. But lots on the NHL draft. We'll certainly do that. And like we said, Abbott's going to pop by for one final visit as well. We'll wish him the best of luck and tell him to go to hell when he joins us a little bit later on. But let's get into week 5 in the CFL. By the way, the ratings are out. Over 500,000 watching the Monday Nighter in the CFL between the Bombers and Argos. So I know Bombers games usually do pretty well, but I was very happy to see that number for Monday night. I know a lot of people, why is the CFL doing a game on Monday night? Well, it turns out over 500,000 people were watching it. So that's pretty exciting.
No, absolutely. I mean, the TV numbers are not an issue for the Canadian Football League. You got to get a few more asses in seats, that's for sure. But overall, I mean, people have been doing it, and I think it's just the great play-by-play, to be honest with you, that keeps bringing people back. But the product
Rod is good.
Yeah. Well, both of you guys are kicking ass this year. By the way, I am somewhat dismayed, though. You will recall we talked last week about, getting the lines early. And yes. I, of course, got Ottawa +4 last week. The line finished at -2 at 2 or 2.5. And what an epic backdoor cover by the Red Blacks with that late touchdown and a 2-pointer to go from 11 down to 3 down. That was the ultimate middle position. If you were able to get it at 4 earlier in the week and then maybe went on the other side at 2, you would have won both bets. And I was devastated. I had a beautiful 14-1 parlay of all my picks was 3-0. Bombers were up 17-0. And the MBT and the Argos battled back. They didn't get the win, but they did ruin. I was ready for a big 4-0 touchdown dance. That being said, after a tough start in week 1, as always seems to happen, 3-1, 3-1 in the last few weeks. And let's see if we can go 3-0 this week. Although I know we're getting head-to-head. Well, let's start off with this Calgary-Edmonton game. I mean, you got this game from Edmonton. Calgary 3.5-point favorites. Listen, I think Calgary is still significantly better than Edmonton. I think they've got a real work in progress. But I'll tell you what, I think the young quarterback Ford showed a lot in the game, and their defense stepped up big. And Dane Evans, once again, made a very, very big mistake late in the football game that ended up preventing them from winning. This is going to be tough for Edmonton. I'm going to take Calgary. I think that, maybe the rumors of their demise were very premature so far this season. And this really isn't a knock on the Elks, who I think are going to continue to improve throughout the year. But only having to lay 3.5 for Calgary in this great rivalry with the way that they're playing right now, I think Calgary is the pick. And to be honest, I was a little surprised that we didn't have to lay more like 4.5 or 5 on this game.
Yeah, it's funny because that's exactly what I was kind of looking at as well. Because I was like, what's the number at for me to be on the Elks side of this? Like, what's that number that I need to see it at? And the number I kind of settled at was if it was like 5.5, 6, I probably would have been on the Elks in this situation. But I'm going to go with Calgary. I'm going to side with you on this one. There'll be no head-to-head on this Battle of Alberta. Calgary started the season extremely well. I do like what I saw from Trey Ford, and they did manage to get the victory. But, I mean, whether he's Canadian, American, he's from the moon or somewhere else, young quarterbacks are going to have ups and downs. And one thing that he's going to have to deal with this week is Mike Rose coming right up the middle in that Calgary defense. And that dude is an absolute, I mean, their entire D-line is excellent. But Rose is a difference maker in that defensive line. I think he's going to cause some more issues, which will get Ford on the run, maybe more so than he likes to already. And I think Calgary's able to take advantage of that situation. So I'll go with Calgary minus 3.5 as well. Ottawa, this was an interesting line, Huss, because we locked this in last night at Ottawa +7, and it's already moved here today.
Well, and I believe this thing opened in and around 5.5, and it quickly went to 6.5. And yeah, when usually, you know, the night before we do the lock shop, we try and get our picks done in so we can get screens and stuff ready. And I saw Ottawa up to 7. And listen, I think Ottawa is a much better team than their record shows. Listen, they've got 2 losses to Winnipeg and a loss to British Columbia. I mean, they've had a very, very tough schedule so far, and they've been in all of these games. As we mentioned, the miracle backdoor cover notwithstanding, they have been in these games. And I just think that as they continue to play, they're going to be, you know, tough. They'll be a tough out for anyone, even going into Saskatchewan, playing them at home. So I'm going to take Ottawa. Now, what's interesting is that, you know, earlier this morning, I checked the lines again. It had gone back down to 6.5. And right now it is 6. So I would imagine it finishes somewhere in this range between 5.5 and 6.5. So if you were able to get it at 7, you're probably getting it in at a right time. But listen, I just think that Ottawa with Jeremiah Masoli, their offense is good. They've been moving the football. They've stepped up at times defensively, and they're going to definitely need to do that against Saskatchewan. Now, Saskatchewan's defense really does stand out amongst all of the units so far in this game. But I'll tell you what, Ottawa has – they've frankly killed themselves at times. I mean, if they had been a little bit more disciplined, they probably would at least have one win between those 2 games against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. So you'd think that has to improve. And Paul Appelese, I think, will make a point of making sure that is that's a priority for the club. If they can clean up a few things that are really sort of self-inflicted, I think they're right there in this football game. So you give me a converted touchdown hanging 7 on the board, I'm taking the visitors for a closer game.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that. The Riders, I mean, they're banged up. There's no doubt about it, but that defensive front is insane. I mean, you've got P. Robertson's one of the players of the month. You have an Anthony Lanier who had 3 sacks last game, and A.C. Leonard on the other side might end up being the best player out of all of them. He was last year, led the league in sacks last year. So, and, you know, they adjusted that. The linebacking core brought in Sankey this year. The Riders' defense is straight up legit. But I'm just not sure their offense, with Evans out and Duke Williams is clearly banged up. I just don't know if their offense can be explosive enough to win this game by more than a touchdown when you know Mazzoli's going to take a few shots deep, and he's probably going to hit on one of them, at least, maybe 2. So I'm a little surprised we're getting this much with Ottawa, to be honest with you. Me too. If I had to take a money line play, if I just had to pick somebody to win this game, I think I probably take the Riders. But I would not be surprised if Ottawa wins, and I think it's going to be a lot closer than 7. So I loved locking this in at 7 last night.
Yeah, money line on Ottawa is actually +185. I mean, and listen, this is even with a 6-point spread as it currently is right now at Coolbet, -227 for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. So you're absolutely right. And hey, I mean, sooner or later, we're going to have one of these teams get a win against a team in the West. It will happen at some point this season. So maybe this one will be it. That being said, I think the safer play is definitely the spread right now. You can still get it at 6 at -110.
All right, and then there's one of the most anticipated regular season games in a long time in the Canadian Football League. Like, this is a game that I think people in markets all across the country are excited to watch on Saturday night. It's a 4 o'clock start in Vancouver, so it's essentially prime time across the country on Saturday night. I think there's going to be a huge number of people watching it. Hopefully they get a good crowd in BC for this game. If you're not going to show up for your 3-0 Lions against the 4-0 Bombers, back-to-back Grey Cup champions, this excellent defense again against Rourke and an amazing offense, The Lions are a 3-point home favorite against the Bombers, and we do go head-to-head on the final game of the week, my man.
This is the ding ding. This is the main event. The only thing we'll be missing is Bruce Buffer before kickoff going, "It's time," because it is time to see the two best teams so far. No disrespect to Calgary, go at it. Listen, the Bombers are a very interesting team, and I have to say this. I was talking with Rod earlier today. I'm trying to think of when the last time the Bombers were an underdog in a football game.
I was just going to ask you that. When was the last time the Bombers were a dog?
Well, you know what? I think it might go back to the season opener of last year. I think the Bombers were like a 1.5-point home dog to Hamilton coming out of the Grey Cup in 2019. I could be wrong on that. I don't believe they were an underdog in any game for the rest of the season last year. And they haven't been so far, but now they are. And this game was 1.5, I saw. Then it was 2. And now it's sitting at 3, and the Bombers at -105. So there is a chance that this could potentially go up to 3.5, which would certainly make people on the Winnipeg side happy. Money line was plus 140. It got up to a little early this morning. Right now it's at plus 148 or 138, excuse me. But this is just such an incredible matchup. Now I'll say this. I mean, I'm going with Winnipeg because until somebody actually beats these guys, they're still the best team in the league. Their defense stepped up and really won that game for them on Monday night against the Argos. And the defense is still absolutely elite. Willie Jefferson, Jackson Jeffcoat, Winston Rose stepping up after a tough start to the season with that great pick 6. And a number of guys stepping up and really making impactful plays. That being said, they sort of let the Argos back in the second half. And, of course, they were very fortunate that Beatty shanked that extra point and the game didn't go to overtime. The big question about the Bombers is right now is what's going on with the offense. And I don't know, it's pretty hard not to come away from that game going, my God, the Bombers miss Andrew Harris. And this will be a debate that, will continue to be discussed here in Winnipeg and on WST as the season goes on. Because last year at times the Bombers got through without Andrew Harris. But man, 60 yards on the ground as a team against Toronto, that is not going to get it done for most teams, especially a team like Winnipeg that is in a lot of ways has been built around the offensive line and a strong running game. So that has been a concern. All that being said, I think the Bomber offense has much, much more to give. Now, listen, I picked Montreal over Saskatchewan a couple of weeks ago talking about the tough spot game. And, normally maybe if I didn't have any skin in the game, I'd be saying the same thing in this one.
Tough spot here,
Bombers playing on Monday, traveling Tuesday, off. They'll get basically 1 day of practice and a walkthrough, and then they'll be playing on Saturday. But I think what is going to bode well for the Bombers is the fact that the BC Lions are the talk of the CFL right now. This is not going, on the road on a short week to play, a team as an 8-point favorite and hanging on. People are, and trust me, the Bombers being underdogs, this will resonate in that locker room. They will come in making a point to show that, hey, this is great. You got this young kid. It's a great story, but we're still the best team in the Canadian Football League. And it's going to take a great defensive performance without a doubt. And it certainly is going to take a little bit more from the Bomber offense, certainly that we saw on Monday night. That being said, I just cannot bet. I cannot bet against the Bombers if you're going to give me 3 points in a game because this team finds ways to win week after week after week. If you're asking me to get them to cover 3, I'm probably not jumping on that. But until someone beats the Bombers, they're still the best team in the Canadian Football League. And if you're going to give me 3 points, I will take them. Bombers plus 3. Lock it in.
I can't wait. I just listen to everything you get ready. I just cannot wait for this game. I think it's going to be absolutely outstanding. I think it was big last week for Rourke to face some adversity and bounce back and settle in and come away with a victory still. I think that was pretty big for him. I don't think this moment against his Bombers defense is going to be too big for him. There's the one thing that's really driving this. I know so much of this discussion heading into this game on my show, your show, on shows across the country that will actually talk about the CFL, is going to be that Bombers defense against Nathan Rourke in the offense and James Butler, and they lose Brian Burnham, and Keon Hatcher goes off and has the best game of the week. Lucky Whitehead, obviously a phenomenal weapon. They have so much offensive talent. I can understand why the driving force in this game is going to be Lions offense against Bombers defense. But the reason I'm going to take the Lions -3 here is I think the Lions defense is going to feast on this Bombers offense right now. Like, the Bombers have continued to find a way to win, but they miss Andrew Harris. And I think they really miss Kenny Lawler. Lawler is something that has certainly changed and probably needs to talk about a little bit more. This Lions defense, Huss, I've said it to you on this podcast. I've said it on my show. I've said it to people just randomly around the streets. I think the Lions defense deserves more love than it's been getting. And their front four has been better than I thought it would be. Their linebacking core, we knew was going to be amazing from the start with Lacombo and Williams, and they bring in Purifoy and put him next to those two guys. And I think their secondary is the best in the Canadian Football League. So having not seen a Bombers offense that really has clicked so far this season, I don't think the Lions defense is one that the Bombers offense figures it out against. So for that reason, I'm going to go with the Lions here -3, and we're going to clash head to head. And in the fourth quarter, I'm going to be setting the stage and be like, and one thing's still on the line here, lock shop head to head. I've got the Lions -3. Huss has the Bombers +3. 5 minutes left in the game. So I look forward to it.
I just hope that the Bomber defense watches the lock shop this week and hears all of that, because they are going to know, oh, really? We're not the best defense in the league anymore? Well, we'll see you Saturday night at 4 p.m. Pacific time to get after it. Hey, this is what it's all about. This is going to be an amazing matchup. I mean, a game that I don't think many of us had circled on the calendar at the beginning of the year.
No,
but
you're
we
right.
Sure as hell do right now. And whatever you're doing on the weekend, clear your schedule for Saturday night. My guy Dusty will have the call. And this is so far the game of the year in the Canadian Football League, and should be a dandy.
Chris Abbott's going to join us here momentarily, waiting for him to connect. So let's go NHL draft bets. We'll save our golf picks because I know that we'll dive into that a little bit. So let's go over to the NHL draft. We'll get into some NHL draft bets, and I've only got a few. Huss, I like it. You've dove into this, buddy. You found some value here, didn't you?
Yeah, well, there's idle hands. I had some time last night to sort of get after it. And, listen, I mean, I think from everything that we're hearing right now, I think it's highly likely that, the chalk will prevail in the first 3 rounds. And that's Shane Wright going to the Habs. That is Slafkovsky going at number 2 to the Devils, and Logan Cooley coming off the board at 3. Although I will say this, considering for 2 years it's been anointed that Shane Wright is the number 1 pick. Very interesting to hear the Bob father putting together his consensus rankings from notes that actually have Slafkovsky the number 1 overall selection. And then I've seen other ranking boards that have Slafkovsky way down, despite after the incredible performance he had in the World Championship. So I kind of went through a number of mocks of the people that I think are the most respected and have the best examples in the past. And I kind of focused in on a few other lines. And again, if you go to CoolBet right now, most of the players that are rumored to be or expected to be first round picks, they'll have an over under number for them. Cutter Gauthier over 5.5 is interesting. I've seen him most commonly going to Ottawa at 7. And when you think about the top 3 guys we mentioned, the top 2 defense prospects as well, I think it's highly likely that he is picked at 6 or 7. So, and that's, I think, part of the reason why the number, you got to lay a little bit more at -133 for Gauthier. Brad Lambert's interesting. Now, Brad Lambert, not quite your quintessential Finnish name, but of course, I guess his father played over in Finland. He's essentially grown up. He's represented Finland internationally. And he's a guy that's fallen a little bit. I mean, if you remember what the draft prospecting earlier in the year, he was sort of thought to be a top 10 pick, or at least early there. I still think there'll be a team that believes in him. I know Craig Button's got him going at 21 to the Pittsburgh Penguins. So getting under the 22.5, meaning, and by the way, can you correct this? Am I doing this right? Under 22.5 would mean somewhere between 1 and 21. And maybe I have to double check that with Chris on the way, because I certainly don't want to be betting opposite of what I'm trying to do. Although, frankly, as we all know, maybe sometimes that would help, actually, fading yourself unintentionally.
It went the exact opposite. We were perfect. It worked out extremely well. But yeah, Brad Lambert under 22.5 would be selected in the first 21 picks, 22
Yeah.
picks.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Just to make sure on that. Now, Jonathan Lekkerimäki is an interesting one as well. This is a Swede under 8.5. I think I've seen many spots have him going to the Detroit Red Wings at 8. And we certainly know their predilection for picking Swedes in the past. I know we obviously Steve Yzerman there, but I think a good selection of their history as well as their scouting staff will have that. So I'm going to take under them. And Noah Ostlund is a guy that has popped, sort of in the early 20s on most of the picks so far. So I'm going to jam him at over 18 for at minus 115 as well. So just a few little fun sprinkles to make the night a little bit more enjoyable, minus hopefully some significant player movement and, of course, the selections for whatever team you're watching.
Yeah, there's just a couple that I looked at last night, kind of diving into it a little bit. Then we're going to bring in Chris Abbott from Coolbet in just a moment. The two players, I'm with you on Lambert, under 22.5, and Matt Savoy, I'm going to go over 8.5. Like you, I mean, I looked at, I don't know, I must have got to about 5, maybe 6 different mocks last night, and Savoy fell in that 10 to 12 range on most of them. So yes, that would be under. That's what we just talked about. Over. Over. Yeah. Matt Savoy, over 8.5. I had a buddy text me yesterday, too, and goes, hey, Dusty, I'm trying to bet the NHL draft. How's that over-under work? I was just like, well, it's just how the number would look. So yeah, I'm on Lambert, under 22.5. I'm on Matt Savoy, over 8.5. And then I'm on over 3.5 Swedes in the first round. I don't know, Hustle. We probably looked at a bunch of the same mocks. And a lot of them, there's 4 Swedish players being mocked in the first round. 3 of them appear to be locks to go in the first round. And then, I think it was actually Osterlund, who you talked about, who's the one guy that's kind of a little bit lower down there. So I think most years we see at least 4 Swedes go in the first round of a draft. So I'm on Swedish prospects over 3.5 for sure.
Well, the Ostlund to over 18. I mean, even if he falls down and goes at 25 or 26, I mean, you're still getting in the first round. There's 32 picks. So, I mean, I think there's some pretty good value like that. I know a guy that can confirm the over-under on the NHL draft prop, and just to make sure we're betting this the right way.
One last time with Chris Abbott, who's leaving Coolbet, mostly because he doesn't like working with us. Chris, what's up, buddy?
Well, that's exactly it. You guys pushed me over the edge. It was way too much, and I had absolutely zero fun. So that was it. I said, I just walked into the office one day and said, Dusty and Hustler are just way too much to deal with. I'm out.
In all sincerity, though, I'm so glad you were able to come back on with us one more time. We've had so much fun working with you and the great people at Coolbet, but particularly you. I mean, sometimes you work with people and some angles of business, and you work from a business relationship, but I mean, you've really become a great friend of ours and such a great supporter. Certainly for myself, with what happened with TSN, being with us from day one, and a big part of the success we've had with Winnipeg Sports Talk. And needless to say, starting this thing with Dusty back at the beginning of last year. Geez, we're almost 2 years into this now.
Yeah.
One of the best things we've done every week is chopping it up with you. So we certainly will miss you, and I'm glad you were able to come by for one more trip into the lock shop.
Yeah, listen, I hope you'll have me, when you're desperate for people at any time. I apologize for the lighting. I look like a villain here. Half of my face is
you are a villain.
Well, there you go. I've been moving, and I was looking for my light to do this hit, which I haven't been doing any hits lately, and I'm like, I have no idea where it is. So anyway, but yeah, I mean, it's an interesting time. Made the decision to step away from Coolbet. It was personal for me. I just I needed some time away, needed some time off, and got some opportunities that are kind of brewing in the background. So the way I've kind of put it to people this week, they're all like, "Oh, what are you doing next? Where are you going? What's so exciting?" It's like, it's no big, like, I like to say, like, if you guys remember, and Hustler will for sure, that Lex Luger was on Monday Night Raw, and then he appeared the same night on WCW Monday Nitro. So you're not going to see any of that from me. It's going to be more like I went off TV for a few months, and then there's some vignettes teasing it, and then I'm sure I'll pop up somewhere else again. So
I will tell you, and I mean, this goes back to when you were here in Winnipeg, and we did the lock shop, the 3 of us together. Dusty was calling the game, and we were at the game, and Dusty, you would have missed this because you were there, but I mean, we were walking through the stadium. I mean, obviously, a lot of people know me, but there was a lot of people like, "Hey, Coolbet Chris, what's going on?" And I got to tell you, dude, I was at one of the local bars on Monday night with some of the fellas watching the Bomber Argo game. And I went to the bathroom, and a guy, I didn't know him, I'd never met him before, said, "Hey, Hustler, what's going on with Coolbet Chris?" And he asked me in the thing. But I will say this, and I think this goes to the way, you kind of built this Coolbet business and we're such a big part of it. The one thing he did say sincerely is that, we wished you well because, whenever he had questions or an issue or something on the site, he sent you a DM. He said he, got a response right away, everything taken care of. So I think a big part of the reason why we've had such a great time working with you guys and feeling so confident in promoting the Coolbet product is, the service that you guys put on the back end, helping people through this. So I didn't want to mention that to you. We know Coolbet's big here in the PEG. We've had great support both from Winnipeg Sportsec and Lock Shop, but even just random dudes in the bars talking about Coolbet Chris's departure earlier this week.
Yeah, and it's that's awesome. It's not something I take lightly whatsoever. It's been a very intense almost 3 years since Coolbet launched in Canada. I need to thank both of you guys as well for being such strong proponents because we don't get where we are without both of you, without JD Bunkus and Justin Bourne and all our supporters. The guys that have really supported our product as well. But when I started this out, nobody knew who Coolbet was at all. And we had to do a lot of work on the ground. It's not like when MGM or Caesars or Bet365 or all these big players, the Score, come to Ontario and they can get by with their name. Coolbet had to get by with something else, and I think we did a good job of that. I will say that it's been a lot of hard work. Hasn't been a lot of days off. I know we like to fool around like, oh, Chris is in Vegas again, Chris is here and there again, but invariably it's still work every single day. So I'm looking forward to some time off. I think there's a lot of good things to come at Coolbet. I mean, I know that the developers are working so hard to bring the product beyond where it is. It's come a long way over the last few years. So I'm really excited to see, where the company goes. I mean, I'll be paying attention, and if they let me bet, I think they will. I mean, I'll just be. I'm like, it's like when you could become a civilian again. I mean, I guess they'll let me. So I hope to use the product as well.
I love the fact that you said you're going to take some time off. You're going to go to Vegas at least once, aren't you?
I was just there. You might be able to hear it in my voice. I've had a sinus infection since I got back from Vegas a week and a half ago, and then went out to Newfoundland a bit. Turned 40 last week, so. Maybe I'm just going through a midlife crisis. Maybe that's all that's going on.
Oh, happy 40th. Welcome to the club, buddy. It doesn't get any better, I guess is what we can say. So
everything hurts. I've literally been sick since I turned 40. Like, is this it? I don't know. Like maybe
hey, by reading your tweets, you may be 40, but the Jays are making you feel about 70 right now. Your beloved Blue Jays, and my guy Kikuchi has been definitely contributing to that.
Well, it's funny. I mean, I had a lot of people at the beginning of the year tell me I was overreacting to Kikuchi. Had a lot of people tell me I was overreacting to how bad the bullpen is. And now I was just driving around Toronto this morning listening to the radio stations, and they're like, oh, this bullpen sucks. Oh, Kikuchi's not what he thought he was going to be. I'm like, no shit. So, it's hard right now. You got Gausman hurt. Barrios has, like, the only guy you can rely on that pitching staff is Alek Manoah. And you know what you're getting from Adam Cimber, and you know what you're getting from Jordan Romano. And honestly, Romano and Cimber are like, you still got to hold your breath every time they go out there because it could go one of two ways. Jordan Romano's got, decent numbers, but he's, people are like, oh, he got out of the first and third jam. I'm like, he starts every inning clean. He gets himself in these jams. Like, when you think of the best closers in baseball, they come in 1, 2, 3, game over. There. Like, no, the game is over the minute they walk out of the bullpen, and that's not the case with him. So this Jays team has a long way to go, and honestly, the management's going to have to make a decision here with the trade deadline coming up. Like, what are we? Can we compete with the Dodgers, with the Yankees this year? Because if not, maybe you got to turn your eyes to 2023.
Yeah, might not be the craziest of ideas. Hey, guys, this just broke. I just want to pass this along to you. Ian Rappaport just said Baker Mayfield has been traded to the Carolina Panthers for a 5th-round pick. So it makes sense, right? There was like 3 teams that were in the mix for a quarterback. And imagine being Sam Darnold right now.
A 5th-round pick. Baker Mayfield for a 5th
conditional
round pick. That's
in 2024.
A conditional pick. Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, I don't know. Does this mean that Deshaun Watson's not getting suspended for the whole season? I was expecting to hear that Deshaun was going to get whacked for at least 10 to 12 games.
Yeah, but Baker wasn't going to play there, though, right? Like, he's already
weekend.
severed that. Like, there's no way he was going to stick around.
You know, we can say that all you want, but I mean, if he's under contract for the team and they don't have another quarterback, you know, I guess you could walk away from the 20 mil or whatever you're making, but otherwise you're going to probably go and do that. That being said, you know what? I'm very interested to see how Baker does in Carolina going forward. I have a feeling that he will be better than Darnold was. I realize the bar is quite low, but I think he will be an improvement. And listen, this is a guy that's always had a big chip on his shoulder his entire life. He's going to have a very, very big one going to Carolina right now. It'll be interesting to see what he can do.
Yeah, he's a huge upgrade from Sam Darnold. You know,
Yeah.
Does he have things to work on in his game? Sure, but he's better than Darnold. He's better than Cam Newton right now. And Hustler, don't think that the Cleveland Browns have like this master plan, because Deshaun Watson could get suspended before we go off the air, and then they're left with like Colt McCoy.
Yeah, Jacoby
exactly.
Brissett, yeah,
Exactly. Don't think that this is like.
Yeah.
Don't think this is like crafted. They're like, okay, we're good. Like I wouldn't bank on that for a minute.
Hey, Chris, before we go, we were just talking about the draft props, which a lot of people will be getting into over the course of the next couple days. Can you just confirm? So let's just, for instance, take Brad Lambert. His number is 22.5. If you are betting under, he would be picked from 1 to 21.
Is that Brad Lambert from Corner Brook, Newfoundland, or Brad Lambert from Finland? That's
Finland.
Like an unbelievable Finnish name, Brad Lambert.
Yeah. No, it's great. And I think he's Lane Lambert's nephew as well. And the Islanders, I think, are picked like in the late teens, so he might go there. But just if you take an under 22.5, that you're essentially saying that this guy's going somewhere between 1 and 22.
Correct. It is confusing. Confusing, but under is the pick number. So 22.5, if he's pick number 1 through 22, you win on the under.
Okay.
But yeah, it's super confusing. Listen, when I first started betting, I was like, explain this to me again, because we're so conditioned to think that over is the good thing. Right. you know, so but yeah, in this case it would be reversed.
We just wanted to make sure we weren't unintentionally fading ourselves with all of the selections. Although, as we all know, once in a while that probably would work out quite well.
You know what I'm doing right now? I'm fading me.
When I was so I had to come up with a new Twitter handle, which, by the way, yeah, I mean that one stuck. Like that was, people will probably know me as that for a while. And I was like, should it be fade Chris Abbott? Like, what would, because Chris Abbott was gone. And then I was like, should it be fade Chris Abbott? It's like, no, I do the self-deprecating thing enough. Maybe I'll just let people continue to hammer me.
Yeah. So real
Dusty,
Chris
your
Abbott is
response?
where they can find you. Yeah.
Your response is hilarious. Real Chris Abbott going to Spain. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. Chris, man, thank you for everything. And remember, if you end up somewhere else, you want to fire us a huge offer to come with you, just let us know.
Never do it.
Well,
I'm kidding.
yeah,
I'm kidding.
I
We're
got to
not
be
going
careful.
anywhere. You've set
I
up
gotta
a
be
great thing
careful.
with us at Cool Bet, buddy, and we appreciate all the support, man. And I'm looking forward to Pat. Pat's going to slide in, right? We're going to have Pat Gregoire now moving forward, so that's good.
Yeah. Patty's over in Estonia right now, learning the ropes from all the big guys. So P. Greggy, check him out. Pat's one of the most wonderful people I've ever met in my life. He's going to do a great job. He's so sincere. I think he's going to do great. Jake's going to still be around. They're going to be adding to the team. So nothing but good things to say about CoolBet and all the guys, and I wish them all the success in the world.
Well, we'll definitely have those cats on at some point soon. And I imagine as long as Pat's back from Estonia, I'll be getting together with the boys for a little bit of a British Open preview, as we usually do for the majors next week. And be interested to see. Jake cut the mullet. He said he's a little bit more ready for a little more cam time.
Is he Jacob now? Is he Jacob? No longer Jake? Is he Jacob?
That's what happens when you grow up, I guess. Hey, jeez. Chris, thanks for everything, man. And looking forward to seeing what's next for you, buddy. Best of luck.
Hey, stay in touch, fellas. This has been great. To everybody out there watching, I know sometimes we just shoot the shit like we're buddies and we forget that there's people watching. But to everyone out there, thanks so much for supporting me, supporting CoolBet, and supporting the Lock Shop. Keep it up, and nothing's going to change. Only going to get better.
Thanks, man. Talk soon.
There you go. That is Chris Abbott. And to be honest with you, man, when I first started doing like all my podcasts and streams and stuff, it was two guys and a goalie, and it was Chris and CoolBet. that helped us start it. So if it wasn't for Chris and Coolbet, I might not have anything that I'm doing right now. So that's very grateful to Chris for helping us build what we've built, and we've helped them build what they've built. It's just been a really good partnership, and it's been fun.
Well, and listen, I mean, obviously our biggest followings, and we have people to check this out from all over the place, but I mean, you being in Edmonton, me being in Winnipeg, and, very early after we started the Lock Shop, I mean, there was a ton of action on Coolbet. And, still, if you look at, if you did a map where all of their customers are, I mean, our markets are probably the biggest right now for them. And a big part of that is the reason of how many people have supported us and what we're doing right now. So a big thanks to everyone. And people will be much more thankful if we could drop a winner or two on them for this Scottish Open, a little preview before the British gets going.
That would be pretty big. We've delivered the last couple of weeks, which was nice. Have we ever gone 3 weeks in a row? We've been close. We've done back-to-backs before. I don't know if we've ever completed 3 weeks in a row, though.
Yeah, last year, I think there was 4 in 5 weeks, but I think the week that we didn't get it was in the middle. So we'll see. Shout out to the Postman and your pick last week. A nice win at the John Deere. And I'll tell you what, we're not going to spend any time on the Barbasol this week because most of the guys you probably wouldn't. I mean, it's essentially throwing darts. However, for the Winnipeg folks watching, I will let you know our guy Aaron Cockrell, after making the cut of the RBC Canadian Open, because of his standing on the DP World Tour, has gained entry into the Barbasol Championship. He's on the board. I got a little sprinkle on him at 150 to 1. So you can check that on the Barbasol. But the real tournament this week is going to be over in Scotland. And just an absolutely star-studded field with everyone trying to get ready for, of course, the Open Championship just around the corner, Dusty.
Yeah, let's get right into it, man. And it's a great lineup. There's a lot of different guys to dive into and look at. We settled on 3. Take her away, man. What do you got?
Well, listen, I'm really high on Jon Rahm. I am thinking that Jon Rahm is going to win in this next couple of weeks. I have a feeling he's going to be on my card for the Open Championship, and I think that I'm going to roll with him. And he's right there. You got a big group of guys in between 13 and 16 with such a star-studded field. But I'm going to jump on Big Rombo. I think about the way that he's played so far this year, and it isn't like he's been in the mix. He's played well, but he hasn't really been winning. I think that is going to change maybe this week. So I'm going to lay a little on Jon Rahm at 13 to 1. Now, this next one is interesting. Pat Cantlay is such a weird dude, both on the course and off at times. And there's a lot of controversy around him right now. If you saw some of his comments last week, it almost seemed like he might have one foot out the door on the way to the LIV Tour. That being said, his game fits very well for British Open, Scottish Open style play. And, he's a guy that when he does get hot, he can be, he can beat anybody. So I think, I think there's some value at Cantlay with the way that he's playing right now, just outside of those top leaders. And I wouldn't be surprised if he pops heading in. So I'm going to throw Cantlay in at 27 to 1. Rahm's my big pick. But then I always like to throw a dart as well. And when in Scotland, why not back a homeboy, Robbie McIntyre? Of course, he's played quite a bit overseas and went to university in the United States. But he's had a pretty solid year. I mean, he hasn't been, pushing for wins so far. But I have a feeling that maybe some of the haggis and the Scotch eggs or whatever the heck they eat or call food in Scotland might be good for Rob McIntyre. I figure he might be able to handle it better than others. And at 80 to 1, I figured it was worth a little sprinkle as a long shot as well. But Rahm's my guy this week. We're going to back Cantlay as well and put a little sprinkle on an 80 to 1 long shot in the Scot, Robert McIntyre.
All right, I'm going to start my card with Justin Thomas, who, you see what he's played at Renaissance Club twice, finished top 10 both times. And in the 8 rounds that he's played, he shot 3 65s and a 64. So he can light this course up. He just has obviously been inconsistent. When you're dropping 64s and 65s and you're getting your top 10s, if you stay steady in one of those events, you're probably winning this thing. So I like Thomas at 16 to 1. Morikawa made his debut last year, finished T71, and was not happy with the way he was playing his irons, so he adjusted them a little bit. and then he won the Open Championship right after. So I'm wondering if the adjusted irons carry over here and he gets revenge after a T71 last year. So I like Morikawa at plus 3,000. And then I'm going to go with Fleetwood. He finished second after losing a playoff in 2020. And since the Masters, he's actually got 4 top 15s worldwide. So since the Masters, he's actually been playing some pretty good golf. I think, just a sec, I got it written down here somewhere. Yeah, he finished T26 last year as well. So he's played this course well. He obviously has success at the Renaissance Club. So, yeah, I like that. Usually I'll go and I'll read a few different sites and I'll look into it, and there's some people that we follow or whatever. And then I go and look at what the value is on these guys. And I was pretty happy to see Fleetwood at 50-1. I was just like, okay, I like Fleetwood at 50-1.
I got to tell you, I was going to pick Fleetwood, and then I said, you know what? I guarantee Dusty's taking Fleetwood. So I went to Robbie McIntyre, and I knew for a fact he was going to come out. And listen, I like it. I'm going to have a little sprinkle on Tommy as well. We know that it would mean so much to him to win the Open Championship. I think he's absolutely focused on not only preparing, but being in his top form. And listen, he is an absolutely elite ball striker. If he can start making some putts, getting a little closer to the hole, I think he's very dangerous. So 50-1 with it being over in Europe. I do think that there's some value on that Fleetwood number as well, but should be a great tournament. You can watch it a little earlier than you normally do with the afternoon rounds. And then we'll get ready for St. Andrews and the Open Championship. It's going to be great.
All right, an NBA offseason. I didn't have time to put together a board for this, Huss, but you do have a couple of NBA offseason landing spot bets, which I love.
Well, okay, here we are. So, of course, the big story is Kevin Durant and where will Durant play next year. It was interesting that last week, and I thought that JD Bunkus, who's another Coolbet guy, had put this out, that you were still able to get 9-1 on the Brooklyn Nets. Now, that number has gone back to 2. Right now, it's Phoenix Suns plus 150, Brooklyn plus 200, and the Raptors plus 300. So I'll say this, and actually that's gone a little bit different from last night. I mean, it was plus 225. There's been a lot of buzz that the Raptors might be the team that can most easily complete this deal. I know that they don't want to trade Rookie of the Year Scotty Barnes, but you've got Pascal Siakam, you've got OG Anunoby, and maybe most importantly, the Raptors, unlike many of these other suitors, haven't traded away all their draft picks in other deals so far. And if we know anything about Masai Ujiri, he is not afraid to swing for the fences. They did it once with Kawhi Leonard, and it got the Raptors the 2019 NBA championship. So I kind of do think that at 3-1 right now, the Raptors and Masai might have a trick up his sleeve. And listen, I know Kevin Durant's 34 years old, but if you could get him without giving up Scotty Barnes, I think that would be incredibly exciting. And let's not forget, he's got 4 years left on his contract. This isn't like a Kawhi situation where you're making a risk and you're gambling on one season. So I'd love to see it happen. I might soften some of my very critical takes of Durant if he does end up being a Raptor, because I'll be cheering for him. But 3-1, interesting number. And it's those 3 teams and then everybody else, Miami and Philly, 14-1, and Golden State, funny enough, at 15-1. And then the other one is Kyrie Irving. Now, the Irving has the Lakers minus 150 to begin the season, essentially saying that he will be traded this offseason to the Lakers. Brooklyn is 2-1, and then everyone else. I'm throwing Brooklyn out there, and basically it comes down to this. Who the hell is the Lakers going to throw up that would make Brooklyn agree to trade Kyrie to the Lakers right now? I guess at some point there is a law of diminishing returns. If he's out at the end of the season, you'll want to get something for him. I get that. But maybe that happens later on in the year. I don't really think Brooklyn is going to be pushed or forced into trading either of these guys before things get going. And I just don't know. You probably know better than me. I mean, after what's happened to that roster over the last couple seasons, listen, they weren't a playoff team. Anthony Davis is always hurt. You got LeBron. What else is there that could possibly get Kyrie? And not to mention the lack of first rounders.
Yeah, like they've mentioned, I heard, I don't know if it was on a podcast or on ESPN radio before my show, but it mentioned that the Lakers obviously want to build a package around Russell Westbrook, and they're kind of refusing to include their 2027 and 2029 first round picks. But here's the thing. You've seen reports that Kyrie wants to work his way to Los Angeles, and you've seen reports that LeBron James wants Kyrie in Los Angeles. And in the NBA, a lot of times these guys end up somehow, some way, getting what they want. So I think eventually it's something like Russell Westbrook, Talen Horton-Tucker, multiple firsts for Kyrie and another player from the Nets. So I just want to see. I want to see LeBron, Kyrie, and AD together, man. If they all stay healthy, it could be something else. But
hey, they might be able to get back. They might at least be able to get into the play-in tournament next year. We'll see.
It is crazy though. Like his current team is 2-1 in the odds. I understand where you're coming from, the value there. Like,
well, exactly. I mean, just like listen, and it's only the Lakers. I mean, like, can the Lakers pull this deal off this summer? I'm not sure. So if you're getting 2-1 on Brooklyn, anyways, there's some other interesting offseason bets as well, and of course, the NBA futures are certainly affected by all of this. Raptors right now 20-1, and I think a bit of the reason why that number is lower than you might think is because they think there is the potential that KD might end up in the 6. So, as I said, we'll follow that over the course of the next few weeks. Lots of great NFL futures and props up right now, which we'll talk about going forward. But for the time being, we got the NHL draft tomorrow, and the main event. You'll be on the call, 6 p.m. Winnipeg time. Bombers, Lions, Saturday night, battled the undefeated teams at the top of the West.
It's coming up on Winnipeg Sports Talk today, buddy.
Well, we're going to have a great CFL conversation, actually, and look ahead to the game as well as talk about the bizarre one on Monday night with Rod Smith. We will also head to Montreal. We're going to check in with Mike McIntyre, who was there before Kevin Cheveldayoff speaks this afternoon, coming out of the general managers meetings, as well as Grant McCagg from Recruits with a little bit more draft prep and talk about the young men that'll hear their names called tomorrow night in Montreal.
Enjoy that draft, everybody. Enjoy the CFL weekend. It's going to be absolutely incredible. Enjoy the madness in the NBA offseason. Of course, the Scottish Open. We've got a lot going on. Winnipeg Sports Talk today coming up with Huss. As always, the Lock Shop is brought to you by our wonderful partners at CoolBet. If you've not yet signed up for an account at CoolBet.com, when you do sign up, use the code LOCKSHOP so they know we sent you. And we'll be back with more Lock Shop content next week. Huss, we'll talk to you then, buddy.
Right on, pal. Have a great call this weekend.